Suspect has been killed in a shootout with police. 2 have been arrested and 1 remains at large. This follows the shocking killing of 10 members of one family in their home in Imbali in KwaZulu-Natal early this morning. The victims ranged in age up to the age of 63, and it's unclear what the motive for the murders could be. Let's get the latest now from Police Ministry spokesperson Lirandzu Themba. Lirandzu, who joins us virtually from here in Johannesburg. Thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been a rather gruesome week, specifically for that KZN area. If our calculations are correct, 20 people killed between Durban and Pietermaritzburg in the last 24 hours or so, Lirandzu. But this mass killing in Imbali, particularly gruesome. What do we know about the sets of circumstances around the shooting so far?
Yeah, Marcel, look, it's been a devastating day for not only the community of Imbali, but also for the SAPS management led by the Minister of Police, who headed there after hearing these terrible news. When we got there, we got a thorough briefing around what transpired in the early hours of Friday morning. Around 1 or 2 a.m. this morning, they entered this homestead that you're showing now to your viewers. And we understand that these gunmen basically gained entry and they shot at this family that was obviously sleeping at those early hours of the evening. As you've mentioned, the matriarch, the 63-year-old lady, was killed, and she's obviously the oldest, and the youngest victim of this heinous crime is a 13-year-old boy. So we are very much interested to find out around the police investigations. Where are they leading to? What could possibly be the motive behind such an attack on a family in Pietermaritzburg?
And have there been any leads? Obviously, there have been all kinds of reports coming, one of which I heard saying that there was a tip-off to the police from somebody who said that they saw some kind of initiation process or some kind of ceremony that was happening, and they believe that's got to do with these ceremonies that we believe some of these assassins who do these kinds of killings do after they've assassinated whoever they've targeted. Do we know anything more about that?
Yeah, so Marcel, I think we cannot underestimate the importance of communities coming on board and assisting police investigations. We've just, as a police ministry, sent out a statement alluding to the fact that we really commend the community of Imbali in Pietermaritzburg that have really come forward with information that was coupled with police investigations that subsequently led to the arrest of 2 suspects. This happened within hours of this attack. There were 2 scenes that we visited today. It was the first scene where the 10 members of the same family were killed. And of course, less than 2 kilometers away, there was another scene where a police shootout ensued. And this is really thanks to the police, the community tip-offs that you are alluding to, Marcel. What happened in Imbali was that as soon as neighbors and community members got wind of what had happened, and I really have to add this, I've never seen a community so mortified and so traumatized about what has happened. You could just see it in their faces, because you can imagine that 10 people being killed in such a gruesome manner is bound to send shockwaves throughout this community. But we know that some people in those very communities came out and gave information to police. And police acted swiftly with agility, where they pounced on these 4 men that were, conducting a cleansing ceremony. And yeah, you do put it quite well that it's not the first where we know that, especially in areas like KwaZulu-Natal, where assassins or so-called Imbali or criminals essentially go for these cleansing ceremonies where they are cleansed before they are taking part in whatever criminal activity. And they also go for a cleansing after the criminal activity takes place. So this is where the police were able to pounce on these 4 suspects that were, retaliated and fired at the police. 1 person was killed. Another is recovering in hospital and is under police arrest there. 1 person was arrested and 1 fled. And police are also hot on the heels of the Sangoma that was conducting this said ceremony.
Not to want to mix stories up, but I mean, we're just dealing with a story here in Soweto with the horrendous killing of those two young boys, and we do believe there are various units of the police involved, including the occult unit, and that's been praised because there has been criticism before that these specialist units haven't been used effectively. Is there the thought of involving all these kinds of specialist units in a place like KZN, where we really have seen this kind of thing happening time and time again?
Yeah, and this really speaks to the capacitation of the SAPS, Marcel. One of the key priorities for this administration, led by the police ministry and this current SAPS management, is to make sure that the SAPS is able to capacitate these very critical units that you're talking about. You know, one of the things that we've really managed to do and achieve in the shortest possible time was the capacitation of these units that are able to act on crimes. For example, the tactical response teams, the public order policing. We know that more numbers are being added to these specialized units. But you also speak of the occult unit, which, by the way, also falls under the family violence unit of the SAPS, which is the FCS, and they obviously have been roped in to really look at these crimes that have really shocked the nation. The killing of those two innocent souls in Soweto really should remind us, I think, as society, that we cannot stand back and conceal any information that is before us that could assist in apprehending those people. So, of course, there are those specialized teams, the task team that has been put in place in Gauteng to really leave no stone unturned, Marcel, to find those perpetrators. But also, we are heavily reliant on community participation. We are calling communities to come forward with critical information that is going to assist, because we know, Marcel, and we have been on record to say criminals are not really parachuted in these places and commit these terrible crimes. They live amongst us. And it is us, the communities, that know who they are, that are able to assist police in terms of pointing out who they are. And we, of course, are also encouraging that people can deposit their information anonymously through our SAPS app, but also, you know, going to a police station and looking for an ear of either the investigating officer or the station commander. But there are avenues that police are really opening up for communities to use to make sure that this valuable information comes to the fore, and we really put what we can only call as barbaric acts to court, and they really face a full march of the law.
Lirandzu, as we run out of time, I do just want to take our attention back to Imbali specifically, because all you need to do is really Google Imbali, and there's just a raft of stories over the last, probably going back to 2019, of mass shootings that have taken place in that region. And you say that you've never seen a community as shocked and horrified as the one that you saw today. But this is a community that's had to deal with this kind of thing. Just going by general news reporting on shootings that have happened there over the last few years. With this specific family alone, I believe it's been reported that the father, the patriarch of this family, was shot dead last year. Is there a pattern here? Was there a feud that this family was involved in that's had other kinds of repercussions? What do we know about this Imbali community then when it comes to these kinds of mass shootings?
So Imbali falls under the Places Lar SAPS, and you know, we have to admit, ironically, there was a meeting between the SAPS management as well as the police ministry just yesterday, Marcel, where this was really top of the agenda around the provision of police services to communities. And one of the places that was mentioned was Places Lar. We know that Places Lar is growing. This is not unique to that area. We're seeing it in Gauteng. We're seeing it in major areas across the country where police services and police resources are just stretched to the max because of a growing population. And one of the things that has been committed is to make sure that the one police station that is servicing Places Lar is supported by, you know, in the short term, a mobile police station, but also in the long term, the building of a police station. Because what is important here is that there needs to be access to policing resources and policing, essentially. And what we have also discovered, talking to community members in Places Law area, but also community members today that I have mentioned who are visibly shocked, they were also saying that this sort of crimes do often happen when it is load shedding. Again, load shedding is rearing its ugly head and, of course, adversely affecting communities. And this is when the Minister of Police was able to assure residents in that area to say, look, there are definitely not just talks, but there's going to be actions around the rebuilding or the building of police stations to increase capacity, which would also, translate to more police officers being in that area. But at the same time, there's also the mentioning of the fact that there needs to be a solution, a long-term solution, Marcel, to this growing power problem that we are facing as a country, especially in areas where we know that communities are left vulnerable and at the mercy of criminals purely because there isn't enough light. So in a nutshell, Places Law is going to be getting a new police station. And this is not because of what transpired yesterday. As I said to you, ironically, we had a meeting yesterday where plans are afoot to put more boots on the ground in that area.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Police Ministry spokesperson Lirandzu Themba giving us the latest there and joining us virtually from here in Johannesburg.